Okay, welcome, my friends, and what a special opportunity it is to be together in person and to be together online and to connect in a very frazzled, disconnected world, to connect in a very frazzled and disconnected self, and to try and understand how in our lives we can experience a deeper state of serenity, a deeper state of tranquility, a deeper state of fullness. And being here, engaging with Torah, engaging with wisdom, engaging with one another is central to that experience. And I want to share with you, I think, one of the most formative secrets that is brought down in Kabbalistic tradition, which will give us an understanding of how we can try and calibrate our experience of life that facilitates greater joy, greater happiness, greater tranquility. And it really starts off with the epicenter of humanity, the paradigmatic energy force which represents every single human entity. So if I say to you the terminology or the individual of Adam, we think of, the first man ever to exist. But what we have to understand is Adam is a paradigm of existence. And we are living in the shadow of Adam. And if we can understand the energy force of Adam, we can understand what's transpiring inside of ourselves. The Kabbalists bring that when Adam sinned, his energy or his spiritual, vibrancy was shattered into billions of pieces. And we are here in this world picking up those pieces, which is essentially saying that there is a part of Adam and his dimensions that exists in us. So let's explore what are the dimensions of Adam. What does that mean, the dimensions of Adam? So this is going to start us off in a Gemara in Chagiga. And the Gemara tells us two things. The Gemara says, K'da Rabbi Lazar, Dama Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar told us that Adam was very, very high, unbelievably tall, possibly one of the most tallest individuals you would ever see. What was his height? So Rabbi Lazar tells us his height was from the Aretz. What's the Aretz mean? Ad l'Rakia, until the heavens. Wow. Unbelievably tall. I mean, if he was bald, his head would get burnt by the sun. He'd be so close to it. What does that mean? He was so tall that from the ground to the sky, sure, some towering entity. Unbelievable. Comes along Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda says, no, please. You tell me he was tall. We won't get too expressive here, but I'll tell you, he was really, really quite wide, putting it lightly. What was his width? Rabbi Yehuda tells us, Amar Rav, in the name of Rav, Adam Arishoin, the first man ever to live, Mesoifa Oilam va'ad Soifa, from the end of the earth until the other end. What? I mean, can you imagine such an entity? Imagine Adam Arishon. I don't know if you're imagining a massive square, this big square walking around, massive, or is it a circle? What does this entity look like? So tall, so wide. What's happening here? What's happening here? So the Kabbalists tell us an unbelievable secret, which we're going to understand in a moment. But before I tell you the secret and share with you the secret, which is the secret of life, which is essentially the secret of what drives us at our core, I want to tell you a story. Story is when I was in yeshiva, And I was going for a walk with one of my rabbis to the Makolet. The Makolet is the marketplace, or like the supermarket, the little store on the corner. And I remember walking past the store together with my rabbi, and I said to him, gosh, there were some nice, beautiful cherries there. And I said to him, I would love some cherries right now. But cherries, especially in the state that I was in yeshiva, we used our money to buy burgers. We didn't use our money to buy cherries. We didn't have endless amounts of funds, for cherries and burgers. I said to him, I would like to have cherries in my life. I would like to have some cherries. And he said to me, why? Why do you need cherries? I said, I like cherries. They taste nice. Cherries, delicious, delicious. And he said to me, but don't you know the Mishnah? I said, what are you talking about? What Mishnah? He says to me, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, in Ethics of the Fathers, the Mishnah tells us, this is in the 6th perek, the 4th Mishnah. It says, Kach hi darka shel Torah. This is the way of the Torah. This is the way of Torah. You want to be a spiritual person. You want to tap into the energy of Torah. You know what it is? This is your diet. Let me know if this suits your diet. Pasba melach toicha. Eat bread with salt. Umayim b'mesura tishte. And small amounts of water. I don't know what's more problematic for you. Bread, which we're all gluten intolerant today, and small amounts of water. I mean, you get these big bottles that tell you, you're halfway this way, now you have to nearly there, a little bit more. There's so much motivation of drinking water, little bits of water now. I don't know, Morgan, which one is more complicated? Which one? Maybe if it's Himalayan salt or the pink salt, maybe that makes it better. But it tells us that the way of Torah is bread with salt, and you must drink a little bit of water. This would speak to everyone, because now this is the high level of Al Haaretz Tishan, to sleep on the ground. Wow, Levi, you're getting excited now. I know you love to sleep on the ground. Very good for the back. But if you thought all of those things sounded great, you could imagine a little bit of sourdough, some Himalayan salt, some filtered water, maybe with some buchel leaves in it. You never know. It could be, Rashi says you can add buchel leaves into the water. It doesn't say you can't add buchel leaves to the water. And you thought, I love sleeping on the floor. It's very good for my posture. But then it says, you should live a life of affliction. Sure. Doesn't sound very Jewish. I mean, maybe it sounds Jewish. Depends if you're Ashkenazi or Sephardi. And you should strive and toil in the study of Torah. And if you do this, Ashrechav Toivlach, Gavaldik. Wow, you are so lucky and you are so happy, and it is going to be so good for you if this is your life. And not only will this be good for you in the world to come, it says, Ashrecha ba'olam hazeh. It will be good for you in this world, but toivlach lo'olam haba. And it'll be good for you in the world to come. So essentially what this Mishnah is saying to me is no cherries. Okay? No cherries, Shmuel. As much as you like cherries, you can't have them. Because the way of the Torah is bread, water, a little bit of water, some salt, sleeping on the floor of Shlomo. So I was very troubled by this, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it because I think that there's many beautiful elements of this world. But I want to tell you the secret here. And the secret is found in one of the most powerful understandings of what happiness is. If someone asked you, how do you experience happiness? What is the mechanism that gives you an experience of happiness? What would you say? Anyone online can give us, we want to hear from you. We have Michael Wollman, a very, very successful therapist here with us. Michael Wollman, can you tell us the secret to happiness? Not putting on the spot or anything, I'm saying. Anyone want to share with us what is the secret to happiness?
Freedom.
Freedom. So when you're free, no expectations. Nice. Okay, good. Let's see. Thank you. And if you like, once again, Jenny, we'll come to you just now. Howard wants to give us a quote. Okay, Howard has given us a very powerful quote of being happy with your lot is a very important energy force. Yes, Jacqueline. Oh, sorry, Jenny. Jenny. Yes, Jenny.
I was going to say the same thing. Being grateful for what you have.
Okay, feeling a sense of gratitude. Okay, thank you. And let's take two more, Jacqueline, and then Richard. Living in the present. Okay, nice. Being present and overthinking. Being in a space where you can just enter in based on our last class that we had, where you empty out your vessel and you're just present and you're able to absorb. And Richard? Having a life of meaning and purpose. We have one more. Thank you for that, Richard. Knowing what unhappiness is, but okay, understanding that happiness is the opposite of unhappiness, and experiencing unhappiness. I mean, unhappiness can be experienced by in many different ways, but striving for the opposite, experiencing the opposite. Thank you. I want to share with you something we say every Shabbos. And it's a reference to the angels. So the angels, we say, asmechim. What's the word smechim? Happy, but say some. With their going out. With their going out. So it tells us that the angels were jawlers. Yeah, they love to go out. Is that what it's saying in Reb Shlomo? Sounds like it. Or what the Kabbalists reveal to us is happiness is experienced in going out. Happiness is an experience of seisam. Seisam is the ability of expanding self. Expansive self. When you expand in self, you experience happiness. Let's utilize a few examples. What's a few examples? You discover that there is great news. Great news. You are now a lucky individual who is going to be the recipient of a huge inheritance. No, maybe it's not because you don't want someone to pass away, but let's say it's someone that you didn't have a good relationship with. Let's put that aside for a moment. And wherever that inheritance came from, expansivity, bank account growing, opportunity. Now an experience of expansion. Let's say a person tells you, you know what, I'm going to give you a trip. I will pay for your travels. You will travel the world. I'll give you the most unbelievable experiences. You can stay at this most fancy place. You can go and travel to this most far-fetched environment that no one's visited. You can experience all of these extreme spaces. Wow. You experience expansivity. Let's say you fall in love. Wow, love. Another human being is thinking about me. Another entity has me in their consideration and me as a focal point. What a state of expansivity. I have just entered into another person's realm and they hold me. And not only that, they're an extension of me now. They're now part and parcel of me as well. So I've just expanded. And then I have kids. Oh, even more expansion. Wow. Renovating your home, expanding your home. Sense of happiness. So the experience of happiness we see, let's say we're going to go and have some culinary experience and no one has had. Some of the most famous chefs are going to come and join us, give us the most unbelievable degustation menus paired with wine and alcohol. Experience of happiness. say some, expansivity. But there's a massive caveat to this. The massive caveat that most people are not aware of is that coming back to the dimensions of Adam, we have two dimensions of self. The first dimension, we said, was from one point of the earth to the other. And we refer to this as the horizontal plane of expansivity. The axis of expansion is found in the horizontal plane of self. That's where most people live their lives. Most people are saying, how do I experience happiness? Happiness is found in the next state of being entertained, in the next state of acquisition, in the next state of experience, in the next state of accolades. Growth of self on an external level. But what the Kabbalists revealed to us is there's another axis of expansion. There is another platform. And what we refer to this platform as is from the earth to the heavens. This is the vertical axis of expansion. Now, what is so powerful about this is that these axes function together. The more you expand on the horizontal axis, you have limited amount of fuel. The more you utilize your focal energies on the horizontal, the more you experience endless amount of expansivity within this realm, the less fuel you have to expand internally. The opposite is true as well. The more a person generates internal expansivity, which we'll speak about in a moment, what that looks like, the more a person utilizes the vertical axis of expansion, which is from the earth to the heavens, which means depth within, expansivity of the infinite within, the ability to stay in a state of consciousness and connectivity to all. What starts to happen in that process is your reliance on the expansion of the external world starts to not be as dependent. And this is where it comes back to the cherry story. Because what does it mean that the Torah is telling us? Pas b'melech toichal. What does it mean that the Torah is telling us this is the way of the Torah? You eat bread with salt, you drink a little bit of water, and you sleep on the earth. What is it saying that for? Especially that we have other Gemaras telling us that we're held accountable if we come to the world to come, and Hashem says, did you taste from my olives? Did you taste from this? I created all of these things. Why didn't you have them? There are blessings that a person needs to recite on beautiful mountains, on the ocean, on new budding trees. There's an obligation to engage with this world. So why are you telling me that the way of the Torah is with bread and water? That's it. The way of the Torah is not saying don't enjoy this world. The way of the Torah is saying, I want you to enjoy this world on such a deep way that your enjoyment is not coming from dependency. That you don't depend on the externality of this world to give you a state of expansivity. That your expansivity is so innate to who you are, to your experience of life, that everything that you experience in the world is a plus. You don't go to the restaurant and say, what is wrong? You don't walk in the streets and say, it smells. You might enjoy the smell. You are experiencing life not from dependency, but from fullness. And this is why the Mishnah tells us that you will not only inherit the world to come and it will be good for you in the world to come, it will be good for you in this world. What is so fundamental about this is contextualizing all of the fabric and frameworks of the Torah. If we look at the fabric and the frameworks of Torah and some of the most vital components of what are there as dictates within Judaism, we encounter immediately some of the most restrictive spaces. And yet, we've just said it's all about expansion. It's all about experience. So why are you limiting me in the food that I can eat? Why are you limiting me in the things that I can do? Why are you limiting me in the things that I can engage with? And the answer is clear. Because if we do not put healthy boundaries in place for our horizontal axes of expansion, you bleed into that space and you lose all of your vital energy to be able to then expand internally into the deeper essence of self. If you are chasing your tail, running from restaurant to restaurant to have the next delight, and thinking how you can make the next buck, and thinking what is the next festival and the next music and the next this and the next that to fill up your tank, and when is the next Netflix series coming out, because that's your source of expansion, then you are living a very constricted life. The Torah is there for you to be able to then have the infrastructure to develop and nurture your own inner expansivity that is implicit. Now, where does that inner expansivity come from? How do you then experience expansivity if you're stuck? What are you meant to do? I can't move here, I can't move there. How do I then experience expansivity within? So that's why people get high. You know, they drink or they get high because they're not getting enough expansivity within the horizontal. So they need to elevate within the vertical. So they take something that assists them to expand. But it's artificial. So I want to share with you one final concept. I'm going to read the final Mishnah here in Pirkei Avos, the fifth Mishnah, fifth Perek, fifth chapter, Mishnah 19. Listen to this unbelievably powerful Mishnah, which gives us deeper insight into three avenues of self and three avenues of where we seek expansivity. Check this out. Mishnah says, last page, anyone who has in their hand these three things, very unique concept. What does it mean to have something in your hand? To own it. You are from the students of Abraham, our forefather. And there are three other things. Metalmidav shel Bilam Harasha. You are from the students of Bilam Harasha, which was the prophet of the non-Jewish people, and he tried to curse the Jewish people to destroy them when they were entering into the land of Israel. That was Bilam. What are the three things? So let's have a look. These are the three secrets to expansivity and the three secrets or debilitations of expansivity. First three is an ayin toiva. An ayin toiva, ayin means an eye, and toiva means good. Sure. Okay. Good. A good eye. If you have a good eye, it's the first step. We'll see what that means. Second one is a ruach nemucha. A ruach nemucha. What does ruach mean? Spirit, energy, wind. We've got a lot of wind now in Cape Town. Nemucha. Anyone know what nemucha means? Nemucha means low. Sounds horrendous. To have low energy? Is that what it's saying? A low spirit? I would hate to have a low spirit. So what it's saying? A low ruach? Okay, you've translated it as a humble spirit. Okay, what does a humble spirit look like? What does it mean to have a humble spirit? Stepping out of the ego, but what aspect of the ego? So you're saying a person can be filled with so much energy and so much spirit that they're not open to anything. So it's creating space and lowering. It's almost like when the Coke, not that we advocate drinking Coke, but when the Coke starts to go and you put your finger in and the bubbles go back down. That's a ruach nemucha. You're saying it's to lower the energy of the spirit to create space. Interesting. And the third one is a nefesh shefela. A nefesh shefela means, how did they translate it here? Moderate appetite. A nefesh is your physical soul. We'll go through the souls in a moment. But a nefesh shefela means a lowly physical vitality. Interesting that they've translated as a moderate appetite. Okay? These are the three things. If you have these three, you are from the students of Avraham Avinu, which means you are under his tutelage and you are growing towards that school of thought. Then there's another school of thought. Okay, remember, we just dealt with two schools of thought. We have the vertical axis and the horizontal. The other school of thought, which is Bilam. Interesting, the word Bilam comes from Belaam, which means to swallow up the nation. It's this constant need for more. It's this insatiable desire for more that I'm never satisfied. What are the three things that quantify or qualify a person to be in the school of Bilam? Ayin Ra, a bad eye. Ruach Gavoya, very high spirit. And a nefesh rachava, very wide nefesh. Now listen to this contrast of experience. Because what this is doing is telling us on a Kabbalistic level where the ego ensconces itself in the body. There are 5 souls. In Judaism, there are 5 souls that we have that we are able to inhabit. 5 levels of consciousness. The first level of consciousness is the nefesh. The nefesh is the inner vitality of your body. It's the wisdom within your body. The second soul is the ruach. The ruach is the spirit, the emotional self, the emotions and the palette of emotions that are there. The third soul is the neshama. The neshama, which I'm sure you've heard of, is in the mind. It's the intellect. It's the thinking soul. Now, what happens in a person's life is those 3 energy forces are deeply seeking to expand within the vertical axis of expansion. They are deeply seeking to hold on one to the other, like little children, and then the Abba, the big Papa, is standing at the top and he's trying to pull them up. Who's the big Papa? The big Papa is something called consciousness. It's called Chokhmah. Wisdom. And these are trying their best to try and pull them up. Now, what happens if there's no father in this picture? If there's no wisdom? These kids go rife. They go mal. They go crazy. the nefesh, the ruach, and the neshama start to go meshuga. And these are the three places that they go to. You know where the neshama starts? The neshama, remember, is your thinking. The neshama loves this. When it is not feeling in expansivity and vertical axes of expansion, what does it go to first? External and what is wrong. It loves to point out everything that is wrong. Its perception on life is all about looking at who is wrong, what is wrong, and why my life sucks. And that's the constant rotation of the mind through the eye of evil. That is the neshama. A neshama that doesn't have a relationship to wisdom is a neshama that constantly seeks out negativity. That's why one of the most deleterious mitzvahs or aveiras, sins in Judaism is what? Lashon hara, to speak negatively about another. We have a mitzvah to judge favorably. Why? Hashem wants us to be ignorant about other people? No. The essence of our soul is an essence of connectivity. When it's disconnected, when we are disconnected from our soul, it seeks expansivity. It seeks expansivity. Good that no one's sitting so close to me. It seeks expansivity in a realm of negativity. So it loves the news. The ego loves the news. What horrible, atrocious, negative aspects are taking place in the world? Please. Tell me the worst stuff. That's why, and I want it all on one page, headlines. I could just go into everything to see all the worst things that are transpiring. And then when I meet with my friends, tell me the koch. Tell me all of the negativity that's transpiring. Yes, Richard. Yeah, we're going to see this. Very good. We're going to see this. This is essentially the atom that's inside of us. These are the dimensions that exist within us now. We have this vertical from earth to heaven, and we have from one part of the earth to the other. Avraham represents the vertical, and Bilam represents the horizontal. And when Adam is functioning in this world, his dimensions is saying, these are the aspects of free will that we have to choose between. What is your expansivity? How do you experience expansion? Are you chasing your tail? Or are you developing this inner realm of expansivity within the infrastructure of healthy, safe engagements with the horizontal? You don't eat whatever you want to eat. You don't work on a Shabbos. You don't create on a Shabbos. Not you enter into a state of being. When it comes to sexuality, there are laws that surround that pseudo potential of expansivity that a person is deeply looking for, which people become obsessed with. An endless amount of very, very powerful guidelines of how to nurture and how to retain the ecosystem of inner vertical expansivity. So comes along the next part of the ego. We just dealt with the neshama. The next part of the ego is the emotion. Now the emotion, it loves to obsess. It loves to feel all of these big things. You are telling me this? Oh, now I want to feel angry. Oh, my life is, now I want to feel depressed. Oh, now I'm so scared about losing my identity. So I'm going to feel anxious. All of these hectic, very potent emotions start to overwhelm and cloud a person's experience of life. And that is what is referred to as a ruach gavoya, a very high spirit. What's the opposite? A ruach nemucha. Okay, I got to listen to my emotions. My emotions are definitely there to communicate a lot of very important things, and I need to know how to structure and how to utilize them, how to listen to the music of life and experience the music of my emotion. But that it overwhelms me, that it dictates me. Emotions are emotions. They're there to facilitate one thing, and that's motion. You're going to allow them to become bigger than you. That's the ego. And then you have the third category. The third category is the nefesh. The nefesh rachava. The nefesh loves experiences. It is so expansively wide. That's why it's referred to as this wide nefesh. It loves travel. It loves food. It loves all of the pleasures of this world. It loves exploration. It loves fast things. Why? Well, it gives you an initial experience of endlessness. If I can travel, I'm superimposing an energy of endlessness. I can go here, I can bridge that gap there. If I can eat, I'm taking a separate entity, consuming it and making it part of myself. If I can have relationships with anyone I want, endlessness. And you know what the crazy thing is? It's never satiated. And it becomes more and more and more and more insatiable the more you have. Oh, let's get to that. That's a very, very good point, which needs addressing. So what we have here is an unbelievably important structure. Let's conclude the Mishnah, and then we'll conclude with Reb Shlomo's point here. Listen to how the Mishnah concludes. What's the difference between these two groups of students? The students, listen to this, is unbelievably important. What the Mishnah is about to say. The students of Avram Avinu, they eat in this world and they inherit in the world to come. Listen to what it quotes from Proverbs. Lahanchil oihave yesh. V'oitzroisechem yimale. Two of my favorite words in existence. Oihave yesh. Do you know what oihave means? From ahava, from love. And do you know what the word yesh means? To have, or isness. They love isness. What does isness look like? It's a state of being. They just are. They love just being. That's the student of Abraham. You're in a state of being. Why? Because inside of you, you've reacquainted yourself with your essence. And your essence is part of the endlessness of its source. What is its source? Is the Ein Sof. It's the endlessness of God. When you are in tune with your essence, you by definition are expanding constantly because you are existing within the infinite. So your experience of life starts to become from the isness rather than from the haveness. Where Esav and Yaakov encounter one another, and Yaakov says to Esav, Yesh li kol, I have everything. And Esav says to him, I have Rav, Yesh li Rav, I have a lot. And these are the two axes. One is the concept of a lot, constant more, constant need. The other is the experience of yesh. It's interesting that it refers to the righteous people as inheriting 310 worlds in the world to come. What's so unique about 310? It says they will inherit Shai Oilamos, 310 Oilamos worlds. What's so unique about Shai? Well, if you take Shai and you rearrange the letters, it spells Yesh. What they are inheriting, what the world to come is not a palace. It's not endless banquets. It's not beautifully tumbling waves that you can surf on for kilometers. I know, Levi, that's maybe what you are looking forward to. Jesse, what the world to come is a state of being and presence where you experience innate expansiveness. And the opposite of which is that the students of Bilam represent what we refer to as Yorshim Gehenim. They inherit hell, the Yordim Never Shachas, and they enter into the pit of endlessness. What's the pit of endlessness? Exactly what the definition of hell is. The definition of hell, and unfortunately, a lot of people live in hell in this world, is insatiability, emptiness. That they have on an internal structure of self, no sense of expansivity, and are completely dependent on the external states of being, what car they have, what type of environment they have, how much they're doing in order to experience a sense of being. To come back to your point, Shlomo, you have to understand that all of this can get fuddled and muddled. And what that means is that a person replaces their horizontal axes of expansion and they bring the vertical one down to it. So they start using spirituality as another egoic state of expansivity. So they start to think, gosh, this person knows so much. I need to know more than them. I need to look more religious. I need to get more. And they lose the entire focal structure of what it means to be connected to the Torah and what it means to be connected to Yiddishkeit.
Yourself by anything external to what is within you, really, and you use that as a definition, whether it's you super spiritual or super materialistic things, it becomes outside of yourself.
Yes.
So you define yourself by something else, and as soon as that happens, you go down.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Now, what is vital is to utilize the understanding of how to expand vertically. And the structures of expansivity vertically are found in and premised within two fundamental steps and guidelines. Now, clearly, these are just steps. Clearly, if you go up onto Table Mountain or up to Lion's Head and you see the people jumping off the mountain with the kites and they're soaring through the air, clearly their experience is this state of flying and state of being able to just let go and explore. But what it takes is two things. They have to climb up the mountain. They need a kite. And those two elements in our lives have been given to us as two of the most fundamental structures that rocket us into a state of expansivity. And that is prayer and study of Torah. Because if you think about the two most vital places where we get stuck in ourselves, and we're going beyond the infrastructure that we said, you can't eat this, you can't do that. That is the healthy infrastructure that takes your wide nefesh and says, whoa, let's give you liposuction. The next step is to utilize your emotional soul. Instead of being overwhelmed by self-centered emotions, we now utilize that emotional soul within the structure of prayer to elevate into a state of love, enter into a state of gratitude, enter into a state of expansivity and focus on more than self. And we use that emotion through the structure of prayer to then give it avenue to expand, which is then coupled with the kite, which is the study of Torah, where the mind, through its study, is expanding in its knowledge and in its wisdom, and it is going through a process of detoxifying all of the aspects of the egoic mind of negativity, where it's allowing it to enter into a realm. I mean, we were learning together with Jesse today, and Levi wasn't online, but we taped it for him. We were learning together about these concepts of, if there was a nest on a tree, and if the tree was, an idolatrous tree, can you get benefit from the nest? And if the fold, what on earth are you talking about? You know what you're talking about? You're talking about some of the most purest subject matter, because it is beyond the ego of the self. And when you immerse your mind into the details of that subject matter, you create a detox for your mind, which then allows, you have that 3-scale system of healthy expansivity, of emotional engagement, and the healthy detoxing of the mind. Now you have the ability to enter into the yesh, into the isness of self. Now, where Rav Shlomo, you see so many people start to use the Torah as an avenue of egoic expansion, or spirituality as an egoic expansion, is because they don't evolve into the 4th state, which is the concept of yesh. They don't understand the whole purpose of this structure is to enter into a state of being. That's the one after the neshama, called chokhmah, called chaya, called koyach ma, the strength of what? That everything has strength behind it. And it's just like, I'm in my state of isness, and everything else is a state of isness that is intertwined together. So this, my friends, is the secret dimensions of Adam. These are the secrets that if a person wants to be able to experience a healthy sense of happiness, it is premised on these 3 fundamental steps. But then coming back to our experience of life, let's not be misconstrued and take these concepts and say, well, what does Judaism want from you? Not to enjoy anything of this world. Become aesthetic, to become completely separated, become completely disengaged. No, it's saying the exact opposite. It's saying we want to develop such a healthy inner core that your engagement with the world is with so much isness that the experience comes from so much vitality that you've never been connected more in your life. That the Baal Shem Tov speaks about this concept of equanimity, that you can eat a piece of stale bread and it will taste to you like the most insane, because it's infused with so much energy and so much flavor and so much expansivity, and you don't depend on it for your experience. It's not egoic for you. Imagine what your relationships start to look like. Imagine what your stress levels start to look like when you have an internal state of being. So this is the infrastructure that we've explored today, and this is the essential infrastructure that exists within every single one of us. If there are any questions, please feel free to engage. Yes.
What was the last?
What do you mean what's the last one?
You said there were 5.
The 5th level of the soul. If we go from nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, which is consciousness, which is isness, which is yesh. There's a fifth level above that called yechida. Yechida is oneness. It's referred to as bittul. It's referred to as ayin. It's referred to as the nothingness. So you go from a state of isness, full presence, full consciousness, into a state of expansivity that nullifies you into the all. So you exist on a platform of the Yechida where there's no partition of reality at all. It's all one. Imagine that level of fullness. You can get to it. Can get to it. That's a state of consciousness, which we're trying to get to. Yes, Howard? I think that the identification and definitions do create problems for a person. You need to understand what is necessary for you and what your responsibilities are, but falling into the definition of self within that is, I think, problematic. So there are much higher spaces of expansive definitions of self, which aren't definitions. So I think there is truth to what you're saying. Yeah. Richard? No. Well, the truth is, it is. It's considered the world to come, but it's considered the world to come in this world. Meaning you can experience a state of world to come within the fabric of this world. And that's what we're trying to get to. We are not trying to do all of these things so we can start to exist when we die. We are trying to do all of these things that we can start existing now. That's what Judaism is about. Yeah. %. We create a state of heaven. We create a state of hell. We can live in the Be'er Shachas. We can live in the endless pit of emptiness and constriction and more, or we can enter into the deepest state of expansivity where you can't tell the difference between heaven and where you are now. And that's exactly what we want. You know, the Ponevezher Rav once came to Cape Town, and he said, if you bring Torah to Cape Town, you will have the world to come in this world. Exactly. Thank you, my dear friends. Lovely to be with you all, and wishing you love, only bracha and joy. And we look forward to seeing you. Please go next week.